I'd like now to introduce Mr. Matt Turpin. He's a senior counselor with Palantir, remarkable company. Thank you, sir, for your leadership of your company. Truly, you're state of the art and all that you all are involved in, and we're grateful that you took the time to be with us. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you, sir, and it's a real pleasure to be with you all. And like my old boss, Matt Pottinger, who we saw earlier, express real gratitude to your leadership and to our hosts here in Spain for bringing us all together for these important set of discussions. It's a real honor to be sort of kicking this off. I wanted to make a few points, and then I think, are we opening up for questions at the end? So I wanted to be able to sort of run through.
It depends on how many points you make.
Exactly. Well, it won't be that many. I wanted to run through a few points before I hand it over to my great colleagues on the panel as well. So first of all, I'm speaking sort of today in my personal capacity. I'm based upon a couple of decades of government service, as well as the last 6 years in the private sector in the technology field, sort of working at this interface of software and artificial intelligence. And so I'm going to kind of give you some of my thoughts of what I'm seeing happen across the public sector, as well as what's happening across the private sector. I think the first point I would make is that we're at the very beginning of an artificial intelligence revolution. This is primarily an immature industry, and so we're seeing all kinds of things happening, but we're very early in the development of artificial intelligence, and it's going to unfold over decades. It's going to have implications across how our societies function, right? How our democracies work, our economic prosperity, and our security. We've had inklings of these issues now for quite some time, but to just sort of run down some of the main things that sort of we work around artificial intelligence and around global security, some of the main issues that we're having to wrestle with. We're talking about things like autonomous weapons and what the implications of that is going to be. Artificial intelligence and cyber warfare, sort of the automation of cyber warfare. Proliferation and technology accessibility, that's going to be differentiated across different jurisdictions. The thoughts around an AI arms race and the potentials for strategic instability that comes with that. Certainly the implications of artificial intelligence and biosecurity. As artificial intelligence gets applied to synthetic biology to be able to make new things, there are implications there. We certainly have problems across disinformation and deepfakes, right, and the implications of artificial intelligence and being able to sort of automate and vastly expand the kinds of disinformation that we experience out in the world. Sort of ethical governance and inequality, those issues that come with how artificial intelligence is applied, because in many cases it simply can carry through the biases and amplify the biases that already exist amongst humans. And then finally, some issues around artificial intelligence and sort of nuclear command and control that have come up over the last couple of years. That's just I think a basic run through of the issues that we're dealing with. But I think it's sort of more important to put into context and in perspective just sort of where we are in this artificial intelligence story. Again, as I had said earlier, we're very early in this revolution. There's a lot of discussion about the potentials of artificial general intelligence and artificial superintelligence, but I want to be very clear, we aren't in that world yet. We're still in an era of artificial narrow intelligence. And by artificial narrow intelligence, I mean artificial intelligence applications that are narrowly focused on specific tasks, that can perform specific tasks well. It requires curated data. It requires human supervision. But they are focused around things that are narrow tasks. And that it's very difficult for those applications to then be used in any other application, right? And we can think about this in things like facial recognition, and computer vision, right? The being able to detect and see patterns with vision. We certainly see this around the areas of large language models and generative artificial intelligence, right? This ability to be able to sort of make predictions about what word should come next, or how to create images in such a way that matches other images. So it's really pattern recognition. And then, things that we've had for quite a while now, autopilots, right? Things that are able to automate in narrow areas around how machines can operate, as well as what we're starting to see is self-driving features and functions in automobiles, which then combines things around computer vision and other pattern recognition to be able to provide sort of limited use cases. But we're also still seeing that this is very early in those areas as well. These are the experiences that we have today with artificial intelligence, right? The concepts of artificial general intelligence or superintelligence, this idea of being able to perform at or well above human capacity in sort of generalized ways across a number of things, is still in the future. These applications, these narrow artificial intelligence applications, are not self-aware, and they do not perform well without close supervision, well-curated data, and the narrow constraints that come from where these things are used in sort of commercial defense and intelligence applications, right? We all know this from experimenting with ChatGPT, right, and watching the hallucinations that come forward, that when you're dealing with sort of uncurated data, garbage in, garbage out, right? And that's likely to continue to be the case for these narrow artificial intelligence applications. These are certainly tools that, when well applied, can increase efficiency and productivity. And we're starting to see companies and governments around the world adopt these things. But again, it's within narrow constraints. I'll sort of end on sort of some of the areas that I think that we're starting to see these things sort of take off, right? Certainly around areas of manufacturing, where you can have controlled circumstances where you're looking for errors, and you can be able to use computer vision or other artificial intelligence applications to be able to improve efficiency across manufacturing. That is an incredibly useful and lucrative space for these narrow artificial intelligence applications. Certainly in healthcare and energy, to be able to sort of see patterns and be able to respond quickly to what's happening, to be able to look back into well-curated data, to be able to provide recommendations to humans, and then obviously in defense and intelligence, to be able to take large quantities of data to be able to see patterns, and then give those to human analysts to be able to do. The most important thing of those sort of application areas is that it's really human-machine teaming, not machine only. It's human-machine teaming that makes things useful, right? That's where we're at right now, and I think that's important to keep in mind. In terms of sort of where we are sitting in terms of a global competition over this, certainly between the United States and China, there are efforts to figure out how to use these narrow applications to improve the competitiveness, both from an economic and from a security perspective, of what the two countries do, and be able to field in time. And I think we're watching that bleed across other countries across the world, and that's going to continue to probably be the case. Maybe I'll end here and look forward to your questions and give some time to my colleagues, who I'm sure will provide even better counsel than I did.
Thank you very much. Well stated.